Welcome back, pet parent. I'm I'm always excited. I always start out by saying I'm excited, and that's because I am, because I get to interview some of the most incredible people in not just the pet space, but the healthy pet space. And I can say, like, without a doubt, the woman that I'm getting to interview today, that I'm bringing to you today, started a company that has quickly taken over my freezer and my pantry. Like, it's just everywhere in my house. Not because I'm like, oh, I like this brand, so that's what I'm going to buy, but because it's what works for my dog and what my dog likes, and not just my dog, but my cats too. And that is, you hear me say this all the time. If I can buy something that works for both my dogs and my cats, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm putting all of my eggs in that basket. So, Kelley Marian from Green Juju, thank you so much for being here today. And would you mind just saying a little bit about yourself and maybe start into like why you started Green Juju? Because I know it's different today from how you started it, but you still have that foundation there, which is wonderful.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. I know that we've been scheduling this for a while, and I'm glad we made it happen, and I'm really excited to be here. So I am Kelley. I am from Seattle. I have a husband and 2 kids. I started Green Juju 10 years ago. Before that, I had a dog walking business for 6 to 7 years, probably. Um, I've had dogs all my life, mostly labs, and you're gonna get the long version of the story,
It's
but
okay. Go for
uh,
it.
we had we had a litter of puppies when I was 11. We kept one of those puppies. Her name was Magic. She was my favorite dog of all time. And my dad said that she could be my dog one day. And then he ended up moving to Texas, actually. And he took her. And then I was in college for 2 years. I was in a sorority. And then I dropped out because I wanted a dog. Like, I just couldn't handle not having dogs. So I was like, all right, Dad, bring her back. And he was just like, I can't. Like, I'm so attached to her, I can't. It's like, I'll get you a puppy, though. I was like, okay. And so at 19, I got a puppy. I think it was probably the best decision my parents could have made because that puppy kept me out of so much trouble. Having that much responsibility at that age, I mean, who knows what I was out doing at night, but I always got home to let the puppy out, you know? It just instilled this sense of responsibility in me that my friends didn't have, and I probably wouldn't have had otherwise. So Bailey was, I honestly think since I got her when I was so young and she was so young, I think our personalities melded and I think we were the same being. She was wild and anxious and fun and all those things. So after I graduated college, I got a full-time job. I was, doing the 9 to 5 thing, and I would come home from work and she would just be this ball of energy. And in Seattle in the winter, it's dark and raining at 3 o'clock most of the year. And so I would sit out there in the rain and just play fetch with this dog for hours to try to get the energy out of her. And I was like, this is not the way to be. Like, I want to come home to a tired dog, and other people must want that too. So I quit my full-time salary job during the recession to go start a dog walking business to walk other people's dogs so that we could all come home to tired dogs. And it was the most amazing thing in the world for me because I said, no matter what happens during the day, the dogs will always make me smile. And sitting at a desk, that's not always true. So I loved my dog walking days. I really, really made a business out of it. Like, I had business cards and a website, and it was early in the social media days, and I would tag all the owners, and they got to see what their dogs were doing during the day, and it was a lot of fun. Years into that, when Bailey was 9, she ended up having cancer, and she had it was in her hock, which is basically like an ankle on a dog, and it was a rare joint tumor, and nobody really knew what to do with it. We saw one of the best oncologists in Seattle, and she put up these statistics for me, what happens if you do radiation and what happens if you do chemo. I was like, so we know that there's only one study on this type of cancer, so how do these numbers represent her cancer? And she's like, they don't, honestly. This is just generally across the board. I was like, so we don't know if this is going to do anything for her. She's like, we don't. And I was like, okay, well, probably not going to go that route if we don't know what it'll do. And the only option was the amputation for that leg. And she had ear infections and bladder infections and yeast infections, and she was just so rough. And like her like life force had been taken from her. Like she was just laying around and like just not that dog. So I knew that I couldn't put her through this surgery. And the good thing about the cancer was that it was locally aggressive but slow to spread. So we weren't too worried about it moving to the lungs or anything like that very quickly. And so of the whole team of holistic, conventional oncologist vets, everybody was like, go for it. Just experiment, like see what you want to do. So I was having some health issues of my own at the time and learning about reaching for the fridge for Whole Foods rather than reaching for the vitamin cabinet for Advil, right? And so I started applying what I was learning for myself to Bailey. And I had been really into juicing. And with my juicing, I was like, what ingredients are targeting what things? What is for detox? What is for inflammation? What is, how can I support joints through food? So ultimately, I came up with this green juice for Bailey. And I ran it by her whole team of professionals, and everybody was just like, can't hurt, go for it. And so I started feeding it to her. And over 14 months, we did a raw diet. She switched to a raw diet. We did Chinese herbs, acupuncture, something called tea touch. We did the greens. We did just about everything under the sun. And she was originally given 3 to 7 months if we didn't go through the amputation. And 14 months later, she was this back to her super wild self. And she didn't have, most of her life, she had kind of a pink belly because she was always inflamed with something. And I just didn't know better. But she was finally had this like perfect colored belly, like no yeast, no inflammation. Like she was so good. And so I was put at this crossroads of where I said I would never go through amputation. I was like, I have this insanely healthy dog with a tumor. Like, how can I not? So we did end up going through with the amputation, and I had the wildest tripod for the next 3.5 years. And it did not slow her down. And it was actually really funny because it changed her whole demeanor. She used to be this very like serious retriever, right? And then after the amputation, she was just kind of like, fuck it, I'm just gonna flop around and be a dog. Like she brought me so much joy for just like, I don't know, she just didn't care about anything anymore. She was great. So when all that was happening, my dog walking clients were like, what are you doing? I was like, well, I have this green stuff. Do you want to try? I was like, I know it's safe for Bailey and I know I'm doing it. I don't know what it'll do for your dog. And they're like, yeah, sure. So I would pick up a dog for the dog park and put the green stuff in the freezer. And people started telling me that their dogs were shedding less, or they had less eye boogers, or they were less achy after the park. They stopped eating poop. And I was like, well, this is interesting. So then I went back and I started researching, because at this time, nobody fed plants. People literally laughed at me, except for my clients. But people laughed at me when I talked about feeding plants to dogs. And so I went back to research, like, what are these plants doing? And I found out they were, in fact, doing all the things I thought they were doing. They were lowering inflammation. They were helping them detox. They were providing vitamins and minerals that they were missing from their processed diets. And honestly, this little green stuff that turned into Green Juju never really meant to be a business. But, oh, here's what happened. There was a store owner who was kind of like the dog walker depot. She was the only person that would let us use her self-washes when the dogs were super dirty. So she knew all of us and she kind of knew our drama, what was going on. And she heard about what I was doing and she was like, hey, I have a sick dog. Can I try some? And I was like, oh, well, of course, because I'm all for helping people, right? And so like a week or so later, I was like, so how's your dog? She's like, oh, I don't have dogs. I have chickens, but I love it and I want to sell it. I was like, oh my God, no way. I don't have labels. I'm not ready. Like that's not what this is. I'm not ready for that. And she's like, just let me try. So I brought her, I think, a dozen, and she just like sold out, needed 2 dozen, 3 dozen, and then more stores started calling. And I was like, oh, this might be a thing. And so it turned out to be the perfect thing for me at the time because it was breaking my heart to not take Bailey to the park and to be playing with other people's dogs when she was at home. And my husband built me this little commercial kitchen in the bottom of his warehouse. So we were all in the same building. And the dogs could just like hang out on the patio and chew bones, and I just juiced and listened to music, and it was pretty awesome. And I was in the mindset of like, I don't know how much time I have with her. I want to spend as much time as possible with her. So it was really great for that time. And then this little business just kept growing, and then I sold my dog walking business, and I never, ever, ever dreamed it would be where it is today, but it became a business.
That you said so many things that I want to touch on,
Oh my
but
gosh, long time.
I mean, that's incredible, first of all. And what I was seeing is like, I think people don't understand that that's really how like entrepreneurship goes. Like you start somewhere and you have no idea you're going to end up where you're going to be. So kind of like what you did, you were like, I want other people to benefit from their dogs being tired when they get home. That's what started me learning how to become a dog trainer. I was like, I don't want people relinquishing their dogs to shelters for reasons that shouldn't, like, that should never be happening. Like behavioral issues, we should never have to deal with that. They should never be winding up in a shelter.
Yeah.
And it, like your story, it just kind of transformed and then snowballed. And like that's what happened with me too, because I started making food for my dogs, saw how beneficial it was for them. So I started implementing it with my dog training clients, and it just like put me out of business. Dog training, which I was thrilled with. And I say that like there's still plenty of people to help with training, but all of the clients I had didn't need me anymore because their dogs were great. Like once we switched their food.
Yeah.
So it's really like it's always fun to hear how people got started and then how they got to where they are today, because it's never the path that you think is going to happen. You never set out and say, okay, I'm going to be a dog walker for the rest of my life. And then it kind of just takes off where you're actually meant to go because different things happen for you. So that's pretty awesome. I love the like progression of that story.
Thank you.
And it was you were talking about the magic was the lab, right? It reminded me, I was listening to Dr. Ian Billinghurst the other night, and he was like, your dogs are going to stop eating when they're full unless you have a lab. And just like made me that popped in my head when you said you had a lab. They'll just eat forever and ever like a goldfish, I imagine. So it wasn't really that you necessarily saw this opening in the market. You were just, somebody else saw the opening and said, give me what you have.
Sort of. I mean, I didn't necessarily want to make something. But what I was looking for in my local pet stores, I wanted something that wasn't powdered, that wasn't dried. I wanted something that was, the main thing that I wanted was the low glycemic for the cancer diet. Because any kind of plant-based veggie mix kind of things out there had like carrots and peas and those kind of things. And I was absolutely militant about carbs because we know that carbs feed cancer. And so that was the main driving things, that I wanted something real, fresh, and no carbs. I had this, so our tagline that we have on shirts and stuff is add some life to the bowl. And that started a long, long time ago because I was looking at this dog who, as I mentioned, was clearly like losing the life force in her. And she had this bowl of dry food. And I was like, where is the life in you? And I just felt like, I felt when I drank my green juice in the morning, I've never been a caffeine person, but like when I would drink those juices, I'm like, ooh, I'm up. Like, it's energizing. And so I literally wanted to put life into her bowl. Like I wanted to put something living into her bowl. We ended up changing the entire bowl, but that was the part that was really important to me, and the part that I wasn't able to find in any other products out there because everything was dried or powdered or pills or something.
So your initial decision to not amputate, that also struck me, that I want to kind of maybe reiterate to people listening that it's not that you didn't get there. You got there to the point where to make sure she was living the best quality of life that she possibly could. You did eventually amputate, but you understood that the quality of life that she was living, how she was just like not doing anything, laying around. She was uncomfortable, probably not, like, that wasn't the time to do that. That you had a lot of work to do to get her back to a point where she could be that happy, energetic dog. And then once you amputated, she was like, okay, great. This is the best thing ever. Now I'm living my life to the fullest. So it's not that you didn't at all, like, you didn't take their advice. You didn't do what ultimately was you found to be best for her. I kind of see that as like melding the two, Eastern and Western medicine, for getting her, because I could hear it when you were talking about it, that if you had amputated immediately, like, what kind of quality of life would she have had in that state that she was in? And I just wanted to kind of reiterate that to people, that it's not that you don't ever want to take the advice of Western medicine, but is there something else we can do? Is there something we can do to get them to a better point, to where when we do take those like more severe actions, that the outcome is going to be so much better for them. And I think that is, more than anything, that's what I got from the story about Bailey, is melding the two. And I think what I preach about more than anything, and I know you do too, is that food is the foundation of health. So adding those veggies, those very intentional veggies, to her bowl made such a huge difference in her life, in her energy, in her life force, right? Like you were talking about, when we think of traditional Chinese medicine, the life force energy that we have, it sounded like it was pretty depleted. And the only way we can add more is through food. The only way we can add more life force is through food. That's what I've learned, at least. So I wanted to kind of reiterate that for people.
Yeah, on the amputation piece, a couple things about that. When I was first presented with this option and I was learning about it, I was reading online a bunch of forums, and I found a really common theme that dogs will get diagnosed with something, go through with the amputation, and then 6 months later get a different type of cancer. And I am no doctor, not even a scientist or anything, but my intuition told me that their body probably couldn't handle it. And I didn't think she would make it. And so I was gambling with my chances of, let's try not. They told me I would have 3 to 7 months. I was like, I'd rather have 3 to 7 months of her, not developing another cancer and recovering from something or whatever. I will also say I met with just about every vet in Seattle. And by the time I made this decision, I had 3 solid vets behind me supporting this decision. And I think the most important thing about this is that every cancer is so different. Every dog is so different. And there are cancers like osteosarcoma or something where you don't have a choice. You have to amputate right away because that bone is going to shatter. This was a very unique and rare situation with a super rare cancer where I even had this option. So yes, I'm absolutely not advocating for not listening to veterinary professionals, but since this cancer was so rare, I just kept finding people to be like, have you dealt with this before? Like, have you seen this before? And when I finally had found a few people that were familiar with it and they agreed with my approach, that's when I felt comfortable doing that.
So I know you have already talked a little bit about being very intentional with the low glycemic vegetables that you're using. And I want to ask you a little bit more about the ingredients that you are using and why you chose them. But I also wanted to say that I'm coming back to Dr. Billinghurst because I'm taking his course right now. So I'm like, that's all I'm listening to at the moment is Dr. Billinghurst.
For a long time.
But he also, when he talks about vegetables, he talks about juicing vegetables. And Green Juju is the only other company person that I'm aware of. There may be others. The one that I'm aware of that's actually using this method. Because I know even with like all the courses I've taken, certifications, blah, 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 it's always just, steam the veggies or do something to break down the cell wall so that it's actually something that your dog can digest and get the benefits from, extract all of the nutrients from. So you said you were just juicing for yourself, and that's why you decided to do it with Bailey. Did you know that you needed to, like, how did that come about? Did you know that she needed the cell wall break? Like, how did you get there?
I was reading his book as well. So I did learn that. I also, from being a dog walker, picked up a lot of poop with peas and carrots in it. And so there was something that was like, well, this isn't going through, right? And so, yeah, I can't remember if that was like a chicken or the egg thing, if I was already juicing. And so I just put the pulp and the juice in her bowl and then later learned about that. I can't remember quite the order of it, but before it ever reached any bowl beyond hers, I had that part figured out. But yeah, that is really, really, really important. And I think one of the things that frustrates me about nutrition and pet nutrition especially is that it can seem so complicated, and people can feel shamed because they're steaming veggies and they're not doing this, they're not doing that. It's like, we're all doing the best we can. I personally like this method because I think that I know that by keeping it raw, it's keeping more nutrients intact, and it's also breaking down the plant cell walls since we juice it and then we blend it. So it's getting multiple steps of brokenness. But yeah, I whatever you're doing is great.
So you currently have 3 different veggie blends that people can rotate through. And they all have different ingredients, different bone broth. So people can pick from, that's another thing. You added bone broth to the like juiced vegetables and pulp. That was very different for the time as well. So yeah. Bone broth, we know now, like we know how soothing and healing it is for the gut. Was that also part of the research that you did? Did you know that, like, intuitively? Were you drinking bone broth? How did that come about?
Bone broth was in my life. The bone broth came about for Bailey because since it was a joint tumor, I was trying to support those joints, and it was kind of a happy accident that I knew it was good for me. I knew it was good for her, but then I noticed what a dramatic difference it made in her mobility. And so it just became a regular part of the routine. So they were actually separate at one point. I was doing the bone broth and then I was doing the greens. And then to simplify my life, I just combined them. And then it became a part of the product. It was, along with being laughed at for green, bone broth was just making its way back into the human world of nutrition. But we had bone broth on the market in the pet industry before there was ever any standalone bone broths by any brands. So I remember going into so many stores and like, bone broth? Ew. I'm like, okay, so it's like chicken soup that your grandma made. And it was like a whole spiel. And people were like, oh, I get it. But yeah, that was a pretty foreign concept to people as well. Doesn't have a great name.
It doesn't. But I mean, it's descriptive.
Yeah.
Descriptive. So when you chose the initial vegetables, is that the one that you call Bailey's blend that are the very low? It's the just greens. Okay. That's the like really low glycemic.
So the Bailey's blend and the just greens are both less than 3% net carbs. The just greens came first, and it had celery and zucchini and kale and dandelion greens and parsley and bison bone broth and then coconut oil, lemon, ginger, and turmeric. And so we had that for quite a while. And then I started getting feedback that people's pets either couldn't have feathers or couldn't have hoofs. And so there was a lot of people that said that they couldn't do the just greens because their animal couldn't do bison or anything with hoofs. And so that was that, and just a desire to have more option for rotation came. And so I wanted to do the Bailey's blend, but the things that I did with just greens in targeting certain things like immunity and detoxification, anti-inflammatory, antioxidants, like I wanted all those things still. So I just picked ingredients that would target those same things by using different ingredients. So for example, in the Just Greens, dandelion greens are the detoxifying ingredient. In Bailey's blend, we use cilantro. They work in super different ways. One is stimulating the liver, one is helping with heavy metals, both important, but very different ways. One has zucchini, one has cucumber, one has kale, one has chard. So they're very similar, but just getting that rotation. And then the Bailey's one has organic turkey bone broth instead of the bison. So those ones are kind of like sister blends. If dogs can do the proteins, just rotate between them and you'll get the most nutrients. And then the Golden Blend was the third addition to the group. And there's some research showing that if you feed dark leafy greens 3 times a week, it's only a very small portion of the diet, but it can reduce certain cancers by up to 90%. They found in that same method, you can do that with orange and yellow veggies and reduce it by up to 70%. So with them having such a profound impact, I thought it was important to provide something that also hit that yellow-orange veggie compartment. And we do it using butternut squash because that's also still going to be pretty low net carb because it's so high in fiber. So that blend is less than 6% net carb, and it has organic duck bone broth or free-range duck bone broth. But yeah, it's different than the other two, but it's also still pretty low in carbs and providing a different range of nutrients. If you rotate between the 3 in a month, which is pretty easy to do if you just get the 15-ounce containers, you'll get 17 different plants in a month, which is very cool because we know that one of the greatest indicators of having a healthy microbiome is the plant diversity. So when I was getting laughed at for plants, little did we know.
Yeah, I know. Well, even I will be totally honest. I'm terrible at eating vegetation myself, personally. I'm terrible at it. When I tried the carnivore diet, maybe a year and a half ago for the first time, 2 years ago, I don't remember, something like that. I felt incredible.
Really?
I was like, oh my gosh, I have never, I didn't know that I could feel like that. And then over time, I started telling myself, like, okay, you really should try to add some more plant matter in. You see how good it is for dogs and cats, right? And yes, even our cats do need some, maybe not as much as our dogs, but yes, fiber is important for cats too. And so I've been trying to add more plant matter into my diet, but I just feel so good on and that I don't mean to say that everybody needs to be on the carnivore diet. Obviously, you need to do what everybody's different. You need to do what's going to work for you. But I have been trying to add vegetable matter into my diet, and my husband is always on me like, you need vegetables, and I'm like, stop it. Stop it.
I'll eat quite literally anything plant-wise. I just get in creative ruts. But my husband is great about throwing, his family, all of them just have this knack for salad making. They all make these amazing salads. And it's so funny because he and his sister won't have been together forever, and I'll see them both whip up these salads. I'm like, you guys are totally related. So I get lucky in being served very
nice
varied salads.
Yeah, I do like salads, but I am particular about salad. I would actually rather make a microgreen salad than regular, whether iceberg or romaine or butter, whatever it is. I would rather do microgreens for some reason. I don't know what that is. But then I always load it up with protein.
More punch so you can eat less of them.
Yeah. And then I load it up with protein and nuts and my husband's like, wait, where did the greens go? You don't need as much. They're microgreens. No. So one of the things that I think a lot of people tend to overlook, and again, it kind of goes back to do the best you can with what you have and what's available to you. But I think something that we probably need to talk about a little bit more specifically with plants is the importance of organics, because and I don't know the statistics for this or the numbers for this, but all of the wonderful things that the plants are providing to our bodies, to our dogs and our cats' bodies. We also don't want to take those same wonderful ingredients and then have them coated with loads of pesticides that are detrimental for the body. So like, I don't know where that balance of risk reward is, but I know that, organics and local and all that's all really important to the mission of Green Juju. Can you tell me a little bit more about that and how you source and why?
When it comes to plants, I just think it's really important. Like if you're going to eat something that is supposed to be healthy and supposed to be doing good for your body, like it's great if you can get it organic. That being said, it's better to eat plants in general than to not eat them at all. So if that's where you're at budget-wise, availability-wise, whatever, I think it's more important to get them than to not. I would just wash them really well. And then I think we all are familiar with like the Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen kind of list. And I think that's a really, really good guide. Like an avocado with that hard outer shell on it, or what do we call it? Peel?
The skin, yeah.
That's going to be more protected than something like an apple. So those are really, really good guides, and organic whenever you can, but unless you're on the carnivore diet, I wouldn't ditch all plants just because you can't. I still think they have value. I would just wash them really well.
Yeah, well,
rinses you can look up on the internet with vinegar that help, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
And I have not looked at this at all because I know that like we consider a tomato a vegetable when it's actually a fruit. And I saw Dr. Paul Saldino the other day was like, zucchini's actually a fruit, guys. I was like, what? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
like what?
My kids and I get in this all the time. It's like, what's a fruit? What's a fruit? And blows their mind. But yes, a lot of things are fruit.
Yeah. And fruits are okay on the carnivore diet. So yeah.
But plants? Like no
like vegetables. So like kale, spinach, chard, like those things. He's like, no, they're horrible for you. According to. Yeah.
But like go for the peaches and watermelon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Go for the fruits. Obviously in moderation. But yeah, no, I mean, I think we can get in the weeds with all of these different diets and things, and it is important that, we're doing what works best for us and our bodies and our pets' bodies. But taking some of these like foundational principles and working off of them. So in addition to providing organic, I think sustainability is another kind of like foundational pillar of what we are doing at Green Juju, because the reality is that the world we live in, our food is not grown and raised in very ethical ways a lot of times. And when we actually understand that and learn about that, I don't think anybody would learn about that and say, oh no, that is what I want. Like nobody actually wants it. We just either don't know about it or don't have the means to get something different, or think we don't have the means to get something different, something better. How is Green Juju? What is your stance on that? And like, how are you creating your products in a way that you're trying to support more sustainable sources?
So first of all, we just finished our house and there's like this giant hole up there, so I'm trying to hide it. When you say that, are you talking about the sourcing of our raw materials, or are you talking about packaging?
So I would say the raw materials primarily, because the reality with packaging is, and I know you said this on a live the other day, like distributing product throughout the country, you're kind of limited into what you can do feasibly. Obviously, I would love to get everything in glass and bamboo and, like an avocado plastic versus a whatever the crap they give us these days. But that's just not the world we live in. We can do our best to get there, but I think the raw materials are what most people are like the primary concern is, though we should be concerned with all of it. You're right, but let's talk about the raw materials.
Yeah, I mean, we're really proud of our sourcing. as you were saying that, I was kind of going through like all of our sourcing, and I think something that's important to us is sourcing as close to the facility where it's going to be manufactured as possible, so that we're not using extra freight around the country just for the sake of it. So, if one of our facilities is in Salem, so our pork and our beef and our duck and our turkey are all from Washington, Oregon, or California. So we're trying to keep everything as close as possible as we can. We use a ton of beets in Salem for the Golden Blend, but then we have a different farm for beets, for the BAMS beets that we make in Pennsylvania. So that's something that I think about a lot, is just trying to like minimize our overall footprint and trying to be efficient with how we're moving things and where we're moving things, and working with farms that I think the best that we can do in terms of sustainability and sourcing is working with partners that are sustainability focused, right? Because us is where we're at. There's not a whole lot we can do other than choose to work with the people that are doing the right things and pay them fair wages for what they're doing to support how they're doing it. So that's something that's always on our minds and something we're always reviewing. And, if we hear somebody else is doing something we're not doing, or our suppliers aren't doing, we'll ask them about it and be like, hey, what's this? Can you do this? And so I think really all of us are making so much progress in this direction, which I think is great. I think our responsibility is to be as aware as possible and to see where we can make improvements when new things are changing. So yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of made me think about, obviously social media is like both amazing and horrible, right? Like the worst and the best of all of us.
Really eat us on social media.
But it made me think about some of the comments that I see, not necessarily regarding Green Juju, but all across the board, especially in the healthy pet space. Because the more we learn as pet parents, the more we're like, well, no, I want a company that does this and this and this and this and this, and it all has to be perfect. And that's just not, like, we can't do that. Like, there is no perfect. Perfect doesn't exist. But to support companies that are trying, that we trust to continue to try, not to put something into place and like, okay, that is what it is and it's always going to be that forever, to continue to try to better themselves and acknowledge that like this isn't perfect, but this is what we can do at the moment, and we're always willing to work to better what we're doing. Like, I think that's even more important than trying to meet some like unrealistic idea of perfection, not to mention that everybody's idea of perfection is different. But it's just, I think that's the more important thing, that we do support companies that are, from my point of view, obviously I don't have a brand, I'm not a brand owner, but to support companies that we trust and believe in, that they are trying to do the right things and continually looking, if I can talk, for ways to improve. So that's kind of where I stand with that.
Yeah, and I think there's, I run into this kind of like moral qualm a lot, is that there's things that on an individual level that you can do, and standards that I may have for myself, or you may have, or anybody, that on an individual level are attainable, but when you scale up, it's not. And it's not because people want more profit. It's not because people don't want to. It's because, that piece of amazing pasture-raised pork that you got from the small farm 20 miles out into the country, like, they're not doing that on larger scales. Or, that may be a bad example, but that's kind of the idea, that like, there may be things that I love the way that they're done, but we haven't found a way to do them on a larger scale yet. And like you said, eyes are open, we want to, but things happen faster on a smaller scale.
That's why we do have to be so aware of what we're doing, what is on that ingredient label, whether it's for us or for our pets, and why I appreciate the transparency that companies like you have. There are very few of you, I think, that have the level of transparency that you have.
Thank you.
That help us be more at ease with what we're buying, and knowing that like, okay, I can buy this bag of food or this canister of greens, and I know that this is good. This is organic. This is raised in a way, these animals are raised in a way that I can feel comfortable with and just like not think about it anymore.
I think that's one of the reasons, I know it's one of the reasons that Billy and I do these lives so often and try to like be accessible to people so much and, you know, ask us anything kind of things, is because these questions that you have, we want people to know us as people and know like what our morals are and know that like we care about these things and we're keeping an eye out for these things. And as things progress and we can do better, we will do better because we want to, because that's the kind of people that we are. And that's what we're hoping to offer in developing relationships with people through these lives, is that, you know, you guys trust us and you know that we want the best for you because we want the best for our pets, and that's what we're in this for.
Yeah. So to switch gears a little bit, because that got a little heavy. You transitioned Bailey from what sounded like a kibble diet to some fresh foods to all real foods. And I don't know if any of the other animals you've had since Bailey, if they came on kibble diets, if you had to do a whole lot of transitioning, but what kind of recommendations, just in general, like if somebody were just adding some of the greens on top of kibble, do you have any like take it slow, or is it just like plop it on there? Go for it. What do you think?
For the greens in particular, because a lot of dogs have not had greens before, I always say to start slow and mix in thoroughly with the food. I'd say 9 times out of 10, dogs don't care and they just eat it. But if you have that dog that's like, I don't know what this is, they might not ever eat it if they don't get a good transition. So with that one, I say go slow, mix with something they like, whether it's goat's milk or bone broth or yogurt or pumpkin or whatever. Something to just pair it with something familiar. So with the greens, I do feel passionate about transition on that one. Most of them you can just dive into. Like with the bone broth, with the goat's milk, I would just go for it. When I did transition my dogs, I think I just gave them raw one day. Like, I don't think I did a transition and they were fine. But that is really about knowing your dog. And if you are worried about their digestive state. So, yeah, my dogs, it's kind of a tangent, but when I transitioned them to raw, I became so passionate about it that I was that like person that just couldn't stop talking about it and everybody ran away from. These days I'm much more subdued and kind of like, you know, to ask me if you want to, but I'm not gonna like push it on you. But I always say that it takes everything offensive away from being dogs. Like their poop gets tiny, they don't fart, they don't shed, their breath doesn't smell, like it just so just easy. And both of my dogs became so trim, like they looked amazing. I think the biggest transition was Bambi, my Frenchie. She was not quite 3 yet. She was always just the most chill dog. But when she was a puppy, she was like pretty chunky. She had like terrible tear stains and she just sat around all day. Just like with that kind of just like little bulldog mean mug and just sat there. And then we changed her food, and within a couple days, she was like running around our place, throwing toys up into the air, like getting zoomies. And I was like, oh my God, you just felt like shit this whole time. Like I had no idea. Like she became a completely different dog and like had energy and wanted to play, and the tear stains went away. And yeah, so that was extremely eye-opening.
It is. I know my dog, well, when I adopted her, it was a very like, nope, you're not getting kibble. From this moment you step into our house forward, it's not happening. So I don't remember her having any, but it is a very individualized thing for a dog. You know your dog best. But people cannot, like, she's going to be 11 this year, and people are like, no way. Like, she has so much energy. She doesn't look like it first, but I think part of that is like her blonde kind of covers up some of the white hairs. But they're like, there's no way. Even my pet sitter is like, there is no way she's older than 2 or 3. And I'm like, yeah, she's you've been to more birthday parties for her than 2 or 3. You know she's older than that.
That's amazing.
But it is a very a really cool thing to see how they open up, how they're like they're alive.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you have any like really memorable stories of or like testimonials of people who have started using any of the Green Juju products that like stand out in your mind?
You know, I have a folder in my email, and I should be more on top of this. I think, you know, back to like the very beginning of this business, I never meant for it to be a business. I have, up until the last couple of years where I've had, you know, my friend who helps consult for the business kind of forcing me to make goals. Like I never really had goals. I was just like, this is cool. Let's keep growing. And everything has just been, wow, that's cool. Wow, that's cool. And it just keeps going. So when these stories come along, it's like it's hard for me to like fully accept it and understand it, I think, because it's just too good to be true in a way, if that makes sense. So I don't think I've really absorbed them as much as I should. 'Cause I'm just like, wow, that's amazing. Like, could that really be, you know? But one that does really, really stick out was in my very early days. This is when I used to deliver to stores around Seattle. There was a store like 45 minutes away up in the hills, the super beautiful place. And they had a Bernese Mountain Dog that had cancer. I think it was lymphoma. But this dog totally outlived what they expected. And they said that, I mean, they went through like so many giant tubs of Green Juju a week because it was a big dog. And they swore that it was like what kept this dog going. And again, this was back in the early days. And I was just like, could this be? But now from what I've learned from Greens and how, I mean, and Bailey was like earlier in her progression at this point. But learning what I've learned, I think maybe it really did help this dog. And that was so cool to see and hear. And they would send me pictures of the dog on hikes and stuff. And that was really, really special.
Yeah, I know that y'all are really dog focused, but I do want to say my cat with IBD, the rabbit with the duck liver, is his absolute favorite. As long as he'll eat it if I rehydrate it in either the duck or the bison broth, but he does prefer if I rehydrate it in the duck broth, and he just loves it. I mean, it is like I love seeing him eat in a way that he's like, I love this. Because, you know, when an animal has any sort of GI issues, they get finicky and they don't want to eat a lot of times. They stick their nose up to a lot of things, and like he just scarfs it down.
Mhm.
Specifically that way, like he will eat all of them, but that's the one that's his favorite. And so
That's awesome.
I
There
know.
is such a love of watching an animal you love like their food. I loved feeding Bambi. It made me so happy. But yeah, I'd say like just kind of generally the Just Greens with nettles, we get a ton of good results with allergies with that. The Bams beets, we get a lot of good GI things from that. Everybody loves the goat's milk. The food has been, this is exactly what I wanted with the food. The freeze dried's been out for about a year. The frozen's new. But we get so many people saying this is the only food my dog can eat. And that's exactly why we made it, because it was the only food my dog could eat. Because she needed to not have fish oil. I wouldn't do synthetic vitamins or minerals. And so I absolutely love being able to offer that to people, because I know how frustrating it is to go into a pet store and look at every bag and find the fish oil and find the things that you know your dog can't have. So I think that has been, as of late, the greatest success, just hearing how many people are finding an option that works for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I started out by saying that Green Juju has taken over my house, and it has, because my dog gets goat milk every morning for breakfast. So it's like a modified fast where that's her breakfast, and then she gets her one meal later in the day. And I always try to include the Bams beets for the digestive enzymes with the wild ferment. And because she is getting older, and I have noticed that like she will turn her nose up to things, and just doing various testings, the animal biome and all of the different things. Like I think she needs them. And being able to feed both my dog and my cats with out of one bag is like, how incredible is that? First of all, I love that. So, and I'm sure there's plenty to come with Green Juju, but I know y'all keep a tight wrap on all of that. So,
yeah, I mean, we do, but we also, so Billy and I work together a lot, and then we hired Antoine, who is not as seen on social media, but he worked for one of our distributors for a long time, and he's now our vice president of business development, and he's the adult in the room that we needed, like, to be honest, because Billy and I are just like, oh, let's do this, let's do that, okay, and Antoine's like, all right, guys, let's slow down, let's think about this a little bit, because if it were up to Billy and I, we would just keep doing stuff, but we need to slow down.
Yeah. Well, and y'all have come out with so much over the past few years that I can see where it's like, okay, let's feel this out. Let's see where we need to go. And I can get that.
You said Super Zoo will be great. So
yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm very excited for Super Zoo. So outside of nutrition, which obviously is the foundation of everything, it's the foundation of health. It's what Green Juju does. Are there any other more holistic pet care practices that you're like a huge proponent of, you talk to people about? What other things are you really passionate about incorporating in caring for pets?
Well, this is where we get into my woo-woo side, right? So early on with Bailey, when I found like her vet, right? She's a very, very holistic, just kind of witch doctor, amazing woman. She's so intelligent, and she does muscle testing, and she does this this program called NAET, which is basically an allergy elimination technique using muscle testing and acupuncture. That opened a world to me of so much, because Bailey, we were able to strengthen her immune system by reducing her allergens to grass or to, dust or the air, or who knows what. And then that vet, she introduced me to the human version that does NAET, who I go to every single week now and is like my family, and I absolutely love her. But that really opened my eyes to the world of energetic medicine. Now, pretty much all of the medical care I do for myself is all energetic medicine based. And I think it is just such a amazing tool with our pets, because they can't really tell us like, hey, that dinner last night made me itchy. You know what I mean? Or, hey, I have diarrhea now because of what you fed me, not because of what I ate outside. Like, they can't tell us those things. And so it is so cool to have that feedback from them and figure out what's the best protein for you. Are you reacting to spring allergens right now, or is it something inside the house? So I think that's a really, really cool thing. And then a next level from that, I met my friend Michelle, who is now one of my close friends and favorite people, last year. And she was a retailer of ours. She now has Magical Mutts Michelle, which is, have you done a reading with her?
I haven't. I'm like this close.
You are. So she does intuitive biofeedback, and she really brought the world of emotion into this for me. Because obviously dogs have emotions. And cats. I don't think we often give them enough credit for how much it's impacting their health or their well-being in general. And Michelle, when Bambi last summer was having really, really bad skin issues, Michelle helped me figure out there was some emotional components to that. She actually had some trauma over Bailey passing. And I think this is one of those things where you listen to it and you can be like, okay, yeah. Like, I know when I tell my husband about it, he's just like, whatever. But one of the coolest things about animals is that there's no placebo effect with them. Mm-hmm. So when I would do something with Michelle and she would tell me, hey, this is going on with Bambi and blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's clear it. You can see a change in the dog. And I just think it's so cool. And again, just tapping into different ways that we can connect with them and help them because they can't communicate with us. So yeah, that's the muscle testing, the biofeedback stuff. I just love it all. I'm just super, super passionate about it. I think I'll do Green Juju forever, but I would love to like get more involved in that someday because I just think it's absolutely fascinating.
It is. And I do have it on my radar to have Michelle connect with Kim, specifically my dog. I recently had Karen Dindy Smith connect with 2 of my cats, which it's different than what Michelle does. But I think part of me is almost scared of what I think I know I'm going to hear from Michelle, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It wouldn't be, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, well, scared in that I think I know what needs to change and I'm scared to make that change. Anyway, it's like I think I know because she has been in the past maybe 6 months or so terrified randomly of various sections of the floor and doesn't want to walk in certain areas and acts like she can't pass certain areas. It's very specific in very, very specific locations. And I'm like, oh man, like I think I know what it is, but I'll tell you after we stop recording.
I think I know what it is, but okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's fascinating. I'll check in. I mean, Michelle and I still talk all the time, but sometimes I'll be like, hey, what's going on with Bam? And she'll be like, oh, Bam wants you to go here and do this. I'm like, what? She's like, yeah. She says it's good for you. I'm like, okay. Well, I don't know. In all seriousness, I think it is such a fabulous tool to help our pets. I hope Michelle doesn't mind me sharing this, because she shared it on Instagram. So it's okay. She had a dog who couldn't sleep through the night, like was up all the time. And they did a session, and it turns out the pet parent, I think, was putting a blanket over the dog maybe, and the blanket was shocking the dog, like little teeny tiny like microstatic things. And so the blanket off and the dog slept. But it's just little things like that. How would we ever figure that out, you know?
Yeah. Wow.
So I think it's fascinating. And I just think there's so much, they are so a part of us, you know? Like, I probably can't say this without crying, but I'll try. When Bam, she went real fast, like in 5 days. And I was doing all the Chinese herbs and all the things. And like, I could have gotten a few more weeks out of her, but like, I just knew where it was going, you know? And so one day I just told her, like, hey, when you're ready to go, just let me know. And Michelle was picking up that she was having seizures. I hadn't seen them, but Michelle was like, yeah, she had 4 today, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh my God. And so I was like, just please let me know in a gentle way, meaning I didn't want to see like a major seizure. And I just, you know, please just let me know. And the next morning we woke up, and for some reason my husband took the kids to school, which he never does. And I was sitting there on the couch with Bam, and she was just full body trembling, and she just looked at me, and I was like, okay. So it's like, given her state the day before, she had weeks left in her. But I swear I told her to go, and she was like, all right, I'm out. So I think we have really strong connections with us that are interesting to look into.
Yes. I am fascinated by it. I'm completely fascinated by it. I haven't gotten to the point where I muscle test anything for my animals. I will muscle test for myself. And I know this is totally woo-woo. I will muscle test for like my supplements and different things that I take, because I will not eat organs. I am fickle in that way, so I take desiccated or just like, how many of these do I need, that kind of thing. And then I have been trying to learn tarot, and so I will do like a sway test for like, is this the card I need, that kind of thing. Which is so funny.
Michelle gave me the pendulum that she used with Bambi, which was the sweetest thing, and it's like my most prized possession. But I've started to learn how to use it too, and like sometimes Michelle and I will connect, and she'll give me little pointers. But mostly it's just trial and error, and I probably have no idea what I'm doing anyways. But it's fun. But I've noticed I'm a terrible sleeper, and I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll use it to try to figure out why I'm not sleeping and what I need to do to go back to sleep, and it works. Like
It does.
at night, my brain is calmer, and so I
Mhm.
connect better and it works better. Yeah.
I find that the pendulum helps me for something that I know, like my body intuitively knows. And then I use the tarot cards for things I don't know.
Yeah.
Isn't that's maybe I don't know. I'm weird that way, but like if my body knows like yes, this happened, or yes, I need this, or this is, whatever it is. But if I don't know it, if it's something that's like, is this going to happen? Will this be what I need? Like, then I'm going to go to my tarot cards. I'm going to lose subscribers for this. I don't know.
I mean, I'm at a similar point with the pendulum, but Michelle can give me like entire afterlife or like previous life stories of things that happen just from being like, yeah, and then this, and then this, and then they go over there. Okay.
I know, it's amazing. It's really amazing. I love it. So out of everything, and I think you might have already said it, but we'll see. If you could leave people with just one thing, especially if it's like pet nutrition, because that's what Green Juju really is all about.
Oh, so
if there's one point, huh?
We're done with the pendulums.
Well, if there's, I think people have to be open to that. I think people have to be open to nutrition too, but I think it's easier for people to be open to nutrition because at least it's something like physical that they can put their hands on. Yeah, I know. But if there's like one thing that you can leave people with, what would that be?
This shouldn't be complicated, I think, is my number one thing. I think again, back to my dog walking days, I saw so many people just stick with the bowl of kibble because they were paralyzed at moving forward. Because it was like, I don't know if I do raw, I don't know if I add this, I don't know what I do. Like, it shouldn't be complicated. There are a lot of amazing products out there, but just speaking to our line specifically, like it's all real whole food. Like it's just food. Like you really can't go wrong. You're not going to do too much. You're not going to hurt them. Like just start slow and see what happens. There is nothing more amazing than seeing a transformation you can make in your pet by something you put in their bowl. And just have fun with it. If you have a complete and balanced diet, I mean, I assume I'm not speaking to like DIY raw feeders here. But if you have like a complete and balanced diet, you have like a 10 to 20% range of stuff that you can play around with in supplementation. Would you agree?
Yeah, at least. I'm less and less a believer in complete and balanced as the days go on, but yes, we'll go with that.
That's another podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, have fun. Don't overcomplicate it. Every single thing that you put in there can benefit their health in a different way, and it can be so fun. Another little kind of tangent on the side of that, in Bambi's last couple months, I got one of the Mind Pet Platters. I think you use that too.
Mm-hmm.
And Billy and I would talk about how fun it is to watch what our dogs pick,
Mm-hmm.
and they know what's good for them. They'll go to that first, and they have an order in which they eat things. And it's such a cool way to connect with your dog, and a cool, like, I think so empowering to be like, I am enhancing their health by what I put on this thing. I just think it's so cool.
Yeah. My dog doesn't. I will say. I have done those like boards for her. Like I'll do like a really elaborate one like on her birthday. And I'm telling you, this girl, according to all of the tests, she needs more fiber. She needs to be eating more vegetables. And I have to go really, really slow with her. And like you said, mix it in really well, because if I just plop it on, she's not going to eat it. And so I know that her body needs these things, but she will not. Like she goes for the meat, and she will leave like she will not touch a blueberry. She will not touch a vegetable. She like just on her own without me like mixing it in and doing all the things. She will not do it. She's like meat.
You notice a theme?
What?
Do you notice a theme?
Yeah. She is just, oh my goodness gracious. So even it actually surprised me that she didn't even eat like a scrambled egg. She will eat like an egg if I put it on, like I generally will have to do just the yolk. that's where she tends to draw her line, is just the yolk, and she's okay. But even like if I do a big board and I do it like a little scrambled egg or something, she doesn't even want to eat that.
That's funny.
It's like, where's the meat?
That's funny. Well, he does look like a little wolf, so I get it.
She acts like such a princess, and any little thing you do, like you brush her hair the wrong way, she has a knot in her, she screams bloody murder. She acts like a princess, but then you put food in front of her and you're right, she's like a wolf.
Hilarious.
Well, Kelley, thank you so much for being here. I enjoyed talking to you so much, and I think your parting words with "don't overcomplicate it" are just perfect. I tend to talk to people, and like the theme of my life is what they say, and like that's where I am right now, is don't overcomplicate it, and that's what you said. So it was meant to be.
Okay. I like it.
Thank you so much for being here. And yeah, so it's just Green Juju everywhere, right? On Facebook, on Instagram, or is it Green Juju Kitchen?
I think it's, yeah.
One of those?
Yeah. You'll find there. If you type in, you'll find it.
Yes, you will find Green Juju. And
the other.
Yes. Yeah, so check out Green Juju. Follow them on social media because, like we were talking about earlier, very transparent with everything they do, which is one of my absolute favorite things. And obviously woman-owned, small business, love all of that. And they're just providing the absolute best for our pets. I will say, hands down, like out of every company, every brand that I have tried, I'm biased. I like Green Juju.
Thank you. We appreciate your support.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Kelley. And you guys, please do follow Green Juju if you're not already. And I mean, just try out some of their products. I will also say, like, and we didn't get to this, but if you don't see Green Juju in your local independent pet store, ask them for it, because I don't buy anything off the shelf at my stores. They order everything for me. I'm like, no, I don't want what you stock. This is what I want. So everything I get, I order. It is absolutely possible. Ask them for it, and maybe they'll start stocking it if they don't.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, guys. Have a great week. I'll talk to you next Tuesday.
Thanks for having me.